Well, I think we have to understand the limits of central bank power. That's I think, what this is all about. And whether you're in the United States praying that Ben Bernanke will unveil QE3 at Jackson Hole, or sitting here in Europe celebrating Super Mario Draghi unleashing yet another acronym on the unsuspecting world, you've got to recognize that this is not enough in itself. It's necessary, but it's not sufficient. Necessary to prevent the world going into a depression. That's been true since 2008. But to imagine that just by expanding central bank balance sheets you can solve the fundamental problems that we see, especially in the Western world, well, that's complete fantasy.
Going back to what you were saying about the situation where leaders have to come up with some credible plan, we floated so many options: six-pack, fiscal cliff, as you said, various acronyms that haven't just been dreamt up by Mario Draghi himself. The EU politicians themselves have come up with a fair few. The one question we don't have the answer to is what the yield on some of these sovereign bonds really should be. Because if Germany is only paying a couple of percent to borrow, record low levels, and Italy's paying up to 7%, we don't know where it really should be for everyone in the monetary union. That's the problem.
Well, if the monetary union had complete credibility, the spreads would be significantly less, but they wouldn't be zero. It was a phony decade when people acted as if a Greek government bond was almost as good a credit risk as a German government bond, and some of us said that at the time. When the reality check dawned, beginning with the Greek admission that their finances were in fact in far worse shape than the statistics suggested, suddenly the markets woke up to the fact that a monetary union isn't a fiscal union. A monetary union just creates a single currency zone. It does nothing to coordinate fiscal policies between countries, and those had been diverging, I think, pretty much consistently since 1999. So there is a fundamental structural problem that cannot be solved easily, and it certainly can't be solved by Mario Draghi alone. It has to be solved by a radical change in the institutional arrangements that will turn what is currently a confederation into a genuine federation. Until there is some pooling of fiscal sovereignty, and I've said this all along, the European Monetary Union is fundamentally unstable. So we've got to see something much, much more than just money printing for this crisis to be definitively over.
Should the euro fall? Would that be one of the
Well, it is
helps?
Falling, and it will continue.
Should it fall much more, though? Significantly more?
I think it will. I mean, I think you can see an end game in this scenario of parity with the dollar, if not worse, because what is happening right now in the great competition to expand central bank balance sheets is that Mario Draghi is beating Ben Bernanke. You know, if you go back to the beginnings of the crisis in 2007, 2008, and especially in the period after the failure of Lehman Brothers, the ECB lagged behind. Under Draghi's predecessor, Mr. Trichet, it sat on its hands. They were still worrying about inflation, incredibly, when the world was almost ending. That changed when Draghi came in, and Draghi has now made it explicitly a part of the ECB's mandate to preserve the euro come what may. The euro is irreversible. That's what he said at his press conference this week. That's really important because it tells you that if you want to bet against the ECB, you are going to bet against somebody who can create limitless numbers of euros to beat you.